Welcome back to Joy TCG, where it's Final Fantasy TCG all the time. Today, I'm going to do a deck tech, and this is what I'm going to call low cost with Maria. I don't know if anyone's tried to build this, but I thought it would be fun, and it's turned out to be okay. So I will go with that. So as you see here, I have no forwards that are cost 3 or higher. Everything is 2 or less. I've got a couple of 3-cost cards in Titan, Hurdy, and Dark Knight. Now, Dark Knight can be reduced all the way to 0. He's reduced by 1 for every point of damage you've taken. So that makes him pretty cheap, usually, or free. Hurdy gives you a card. It's reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character, add it to your hand. With him only running 6 summons, it's pretty likely you're going to hit on Hurdy. So that's not too bad of a deal either. But also, he could just be discarded for CP. I'm kind of low on ice. It's mostly a 2/3 or so earth in this, so I needed some ice, and this was the only ice backup that made sense. I'm trying to add backups to this deck specifically that have come to the field abilities. Now, not all of them do, but because after they come to the field, I'm going to use Maria to turn them into a forward, and then they'll lose their abilities, and it won't matter anyway. So let's start at the top here. We've got Zzat. I'm not super keen on Zzat, but he's a low-cost 9K, so that can't be bad. He costs 1 more for every card in your opponent's hand. I don't run a ton of discard in this deck. There's Unalesca for discard, there's Umaro for discard, and Black Waltz 3 can make my opponent discard, and I think that's it. So there's not a lot of discard, but occasionally it can be effective. So it's not really the main focus of this deck. And then when he attacks, he can boost everyone by 1K. And if you notice as I go along in here, there's going to be a lot of boosting forward power. So I carry a lot of dice with this deck, let me tell you. There's Kate Sith. It's just reveal the top 2 cards and add 1 forward among them to your hand, and the other one goes to the bottom of the deck. Now, this card I have whiffed on a lot. So I was running 3. I'm now running 2. I still like it because it's an EX. But it's not awesome. And it's a maybe stay or go. Lightning, absolutely amazing card. I can't believe that I can't find a third version of this, but I only own 2, and if I had 3, I would absolutely be running 3. Lightning is awesome. Absolutely get some. It's an expensive card, but get it. Materia comes to the field. Pay X. Search for and play a light forward. The only card that I can do with that is Maria. So, and that makes sense because you don't want to get stuck with a bunch of Marias in your hand. But usually that's not an issue because of her effect. People seem to target her and kill her. So that's why I'm running so many of her. She just gets to come back to the field and play another backup up to as a forward. So it works out really well to run as many Marias as you can. But I have had one situation where I started the game after I mulliganed, and I had 2 Marias and Materia in my hand, and I said, "Oh, I'm dead." That was bad. So that can happen, but not very often. Leo. So this Leo is from Opus 6, and he doesn't see much play, but I think he's a cool card. I don't know that he's like meta material by any stretch, but Leo is fun to play because it's for each character other than Leo you control. Leo gains 1,000 power. His base power is only 1,000. So I usually get him on the field toward the middle/end of the game, and he'll be a 7 or an 8K because I have some backups on the field and maybe some other forwards. So he's okay, but his other effect is actually useful as well. Backups you control can produce CP of any element. So that's cool. And remember, I don't know if you're aware, but when Maria makes a backup also a forward, when that backup is a forward, it can also generate CP if you turn him. So if you dull your now forward that was a backup and still is a backup and a forward, he can also generate CP. So Leo's effect can also, be useful there to get you a different color if you're in a color bind, which has happened to me in this with ice. Earth never, because I have tons of earth, but ice sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I had it 1 ice so I could play lightning, and Leo can make that happen. Ewan. This Ewan card is new from Opus 17. He is, when he is put from the field to the break zone, you can put him on top of your deck. All right, that's cool. But his EX is at damage 3. If you hit him on an EX, It's just choose a forward, break it. So the effect of Uin is he blocks an attack, he goes back on top of your deck, and then if they attack again that same turn, boom, you get to break something for free. And you know it's coming, and that card has forced my opponent to stop attacking many times because they're like, I don't want to lose a forward, so I'm just going to stop attacking. And he's a stall tactic that seems to be very effective. Black Waltz 3, I like this card because when he goes to the break zone, you get 3 choices. So one of them usually does you some good. It's make your opponent discard a card, or choose a dual forward and deal it 7k, or choose an ice summon in your break zone, add it to your hand. Well, I can't use that one because I'm not running any ice summons. They're all earth. But you get 2 choices, really, with this deck, I guess. So he's decent. He's just a blocker. That's really his effect, and then force your opponent to discard normally. Aerith, absolutely amazing in this deck. She gives 2k to everyone except herself that's on the board. So that's easy. And then Maria gives 2k to everyone except herself that's cost 2 or less, which is also everyone, unless for some reason I make Dark Knight or Hurdy into a forward with Maria's effect. It's the only time they wouldn't get the 2k bonus from Maria. So if I can get Maria and Aerith on the field, some of these forwards can get really big, like Lightning, like Zizat, like Umaru, and even, Leo. Leo's the other one that can get really big with those both on the field. And when Zizat attacks, he gets that 1k boost to everything. So things can get big occasionally, even though they're really low cost. The next card I'm looking at is Umaru. This card I was absolutely hated when I first read it, and now I'm like, maybe I could try him. So I'm going to try this Umaru and see how he works. I just put him in. I haven't tested him yet. So when he must attack once per turn if possible. So he's a 9k. So I'm like, well, that's usually strong enough to kill something, or your opponent won't block. But also, if we've got any other boosts on, like Zizat or Maria or Aerith, he's really getting big, and now nobody wants to block him. His other ability is dull him and put him in the break zone. Your opponent discards 2 cards. So if you don't want him to attack, because he's going to die anyway, you might as well just turn and break him, make your opponent discard 2 cards. So I like that there's that option as well with this. And when he comes to the field, if you control 4 or less category 6 characters, discard another card. Well, 1 card. Now, I would only play Umaru if I had no cards in hand, which is likely with this deck. Because of Lightning, you want to have low cards in hand anyway. So I'm thinking that this will probably work, and I won't usually play him if I needed to do an extra discard, unless there was a desperate situation. Duke Snakeheart, absolutely critical in this deck. I have used him many times to stall while I'm building my deck up, or my board up, my backup line, while my opponent is trying to attack in, and I'll break their forwards that they've searched at the beginning of the game, and now they're like, yeah, I'm all set up, and then you bring out Duke and kill him with his back attack move. So it's so good. Duke is amazing. I've also used Night Dancer as a great stall tactic. If they try to rush and they've got 3 forwards and no backups, you just play Night Dancer and you're like, oh, looks like you can't attack because you don't have any backups, because they can only attack with the number of backups they have on the field. And I've already talked about Maria a little bit. When she comes to the field, you can take 1 backup that you control, activate it, and it becomes a forward. The great thing about that is if your backup didn't just come to the field that same turn as Maria, he's been on the field at least a turn, so he doesn't get summoning sickness. So he comes up, he's a forward, boom, he can attack, and he's a 10k because he's an 8 with her effect, plus she gives 2 to everything that's 2 cost or less. So it's a 10k forward that you just made appear that was already on the field and can essentially kind of has haste, but it just attacks because it's been on the field. It doesn't actually have haste. So I love Maria. She's really the engine for this deck. If you lose all 3 Marias, well, you can always get them back with Kusith unless they X-Death you or something. But Kusith is kind of necessary to get back Maria, to get back Duke. That's usually the 2 targets I have for that. Or if I'm hurting for backups, I could use Kusith to grab Dark Knight later in the game after I've had 3 damage and just play him for free. So those are usually one of my 3 main targets with Kusith. Titan, oh my gosh, Titan's so good. Give all your forwards 5,000 power. Well, I'm already boosting them with Aerith and Maria and Zizat. Might as well give them 5k more so that I can block with something weak like Black Waltz 3. and make him, for example, a 10K with his 2 plus 5, and now they lost something that they really didn't want to lose when they're attacking in. So that's a great sneaky hit with Titan there. Cosmos is in here because, I don't know, it was just a convenient way to get more CP. Generation, that's 2 colors. Like I said, I've had multiple situations where I run out of ice. So that's why I like having Leo and Cosmos, so I can generate that ice whenever I want. Sid Sophiar is really cool. I haven't been able to use his effect because I haven't went against decks that use like Haste and Brave regularly or First Strike. But if I'm thinking if I'm going against someone who is running Squall, or they have their own Lightning card, or they've got Samurais and they're running Brave on a lot of cards, you can use this to steal it from them, and they don't get it that turn, which can be devastating in certain builds. So it's really nice to have that available. Unalesca is discard a card, and then your opponent discards a card. So that's just a discard option in case I need to get them down by 1 for Lightning's effect. I put Black Belt in today thinking that it might work for something. So it's when he enters the field, choose 1 forward you control, it gains 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So I can boost one of my guys by 5k for this turn. Probably would be Umaru. If I'm like, ooh, he's not going to be strong enough to get over their first strike 9k. Oh, now he is. Boom, 14. So that can be a useful effect there. Bagamnon, I love Bagamnon. No one else seems to think that he's cool. My gosh, you people. Love him. Just love him. So when he enters the field, choose 1 forward, opponent controls, activate it. It gains, if possible, this forward must block until the end of the turn. Well, since I must attack with Umaru, might as well make them block and lose something. So seems like a good deal. I got multiple forwards that I would want my opponent to block, like Zizat, like Lightning, because they're so strong that they will probably lose. And if I don't want them to, or they have and if I'm choosing who they block with, I'm going to choose their weakest guy, or the guy that I want them to lose that has some kind of protection against summons and abilities, things like that. Well, battle damage just breaks them because that is not protected from that. So that's why this is such a nice card to get around those effects. Edward, just great card. Choose 1 card in their break zone or remove from game. It's so good if there's certain targets that you don't want them to get back. Get all 3 of them out of the game, and then you never see them again. Or the 1 copy of Sophie that they try to run. Dang it, Sophie, get out of here. Dr. Sid. Okay, I just added this card, and I think it's going to be great. I would run more of him, but I only own 1. He's from Opus 2. Dr. Sid says, when a backup you control is broken by your opponent's summons or abilities, your opponent puts 1 character from their field into the break zone. Now, you would never make Dr. Sid into a forward with Maria's ability because she removes that backup's abilities when that happens. But when he stays on the backup line and you now activate a different backup, let's say I make Bagamnon into a forward with Maria's ability. Now, if Bagamnon as a forward and backup is destroyed by your opponent's summons or abilities, Dr. Sid activates, and they now lose a character, which is awesome. It's like Neo Exta, but not quite. And it's only a 2-cost backup. So you just put Dr. Sid in the backup line, leave him there, do not turn him into a forward, and he can give you some great benefit. Dark Knight I've already talked about. His other effect has saved me multiple times. It's pay 1 earth and 1 of something else in Dull. Choose a forward until the end of the turn. It gains 1,000 power for each point of damage you've received. Well, if you're playing Dark Knight to the field for free, that means you've taken at least 3 damage. And I've activated his effect on 5 and 6 damage before, and my opponent is just devastated because I'm giving 5 or 6k to one of my forwards. And you can have multiple Dark Knights on the field, and it's a multi-card. So you could activate this more than once because you can have more than 1 of him on the field. Now, it does cost 2 and Dull, so you have to kind of plan for it. If you think your opponent's going to attack in, you can plan to sneak attack in with this. And then Hurdy. When he enters the field, reveal a top card of your deck. If it's a character, add it to your hand. Very likely he'll hit. Now, the last part of this is turn and break him, and then choose a category FFTA2 forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. Well, that's probably going to be Ewan, or... oh, look for it. There it is. Duke Snakeheart. You can get him with that effect as well. Duke is so necessary in this deck. So you want to keep playing him. If you can play him 5, 6, 7 times, you're probably going to be in a good spot. All right. Let me know what you think about this awesome deck. I'm going to try to play it for the Cure series / Sky Pirate series, this set, and see what happens. Love you guys. Talk to you later.